So, what if some of the Bible's most confusing passages, the ones about men and women, aren't actually about our bodies at all? We're going to explore a really fascinating perspective today, one that sees gender in the Bible not as biology, but as a kind of symbolic language, a hidden code that actually describes a spiritual journey that happens inside every single one of us. Okay, let's just get right into it because this is a big one. It's a question so many of us get stuck on. You read certain verses and they don't land right, do they? With our modern sense of fairness and equality, they can feel confusing, maybe a little harsh, or just completely out of touch. I mean, think about these for a second. If a woman is saved by having children, what does that mean for women who can't or choose not to? And if a husband is supposed to rule over his wife, well, where does a partnership of equals fit in? And does every single man have to be a farmer to survive? You see, if you take these literally, they start to fall apart because they just don't apply to everyone. It feels like we're missing a piece of the puzzle.
So, to solve this puzzle, what if we need a totally different key? What if gender in the Bible isn't about being a physical man or a physical woman, but about spiritual functions, about different roles that are playing out inside of all of us, no matter who we are?
This right here is the absolute core of the idea. The source material suggests that in the original languages of the Bible, gender isn't random grammar. Nope, it's a deliberate system that's telling you the function of something, what role a person, a place, or even an idea is playing in this grand spiritual drama. It's a language of function.
So what are these functional roles? Well, first up, you've got the masculine function. This is the giver. It's the active part, the one that starts things, provides the spark, or imparts some kind of quality. Think of it like the one who plants a seed. And if you have a giver, you need a receiver, right? That's the feminine function. This is the productive, creative part that accepts what the giver provides. It takes that seed, nurtures it, and actually brings something new into the world, a result, a creation. And finally, there's this third state, neuter. This represents the finish line, the beautiful moment of union where the giver and receiver become totally one. It's a state of completion, or it can be the bridge that connects the two. Now, once you start seeing the text through these three lenses, things get really interesting.
All right, so now that we have this symbolic key, let's actually use it. Let's see how it unlocks a couple of really well-known and sometimes pretty tricky passages.
Okay, take the story of Peter and the rock. This is fascinating. When Jesus talks about this, he uses two different words in Greek. He calls Peter Petros, which is a masculine noun. This represents Peter the man who is still in the process of being cleansed of his old ideas. But the rock that the church will be built on, that's Petra, a feminine noun. This represents a spiritual state, a prepared, cleansed, and receptive foundation, ready to receive Christ and build something brand new. So you see, it's not just about the man Peter, it's about the state he's aiming for.
And we see this same kind of dynamic with the Holy Spirit. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew word for spirit, ruach, is feminine. This highlights its role as a receiver, a productive force that takes God's power and creates something with it. But then, jump to the New Testament, and the Greek word pneuma is neuter. This signals a shift in its function. It's now acting as a mediator, a uniting force that brings God and humanity together. The gender tells you its job.
And all of this brings us to what might be the most powerful part of this whole idea, that the entire story of the Bible is actually a map for an inner journey. The story of Adam, and specifically the male and female roles within him, isn't just ancient history. It's the story of a transformation that's meant to happen inside every single one of us.
So, from this perspective, the first Adam isn't just some historical guy. He represents our starting point, the initial state of every human mind. It's a mind that is acting in that masculine giver role, but it's giving its energy and belief to worldly ideas, to the serpent's ideas, you could say.
So, the crucial thing to see is how this whole story unfolds inside of us. We start out as that first Adam in a masculine role, giving life to all these flawed worldly ideas. Then, the truth of Christ comes in and acts like a cleansing agent, emptying our minds of all that stuff. And this is what brings us into the feminine state. Our mind becomes this clean, receptive vessel. Only then, once we're in that prepared state, can Christ, the symbolic husband or giver, unite with our mind, the symbolic wife or receiver. And that union forms a new creation, the church. It's the story of those two fundamental roles, masculine and feminine, finally coming together as one, right inside of us.
And when you zoom out, this idea changes everything. The Bible is no longer just a book of ancient rules or stories. It becomes this deeply personal roadmap for the union of our own soul with the divine. From this point of view, every single word, every story, is a crucial part of this complete internal journey back to oneness.
This quote from the source material just says it all so beautifully. The whole complex language of gender, the roles of male and female we see in Adam, and across the scriptures, it's all been telling one love story, the long journey of you, of me, becoming one with God.
So this leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. If this symbolic key can unlock the story of Adam and Eve for Peter and the rock in this way, what else could it reveal? It's an invitation to go back and read these stories, not just as things that happened way back when, but as a mirror for a spiritual process that could be happening inside of us right now.